Hello, I'm Kathleen Bade. We are talking to Chris Ragsdale from Cobb County School District, Georgia, as we continue to talk to superintendents from across the country. So nice to see you. Well, tell us more about your district. What do you think makes it so special in the heart of Georgia?
Well, it's the second largest district in the state. So it's a large school district. We're the 23rd largest in the country. But I think our mission statement really sums up everything. Our mission statement is one team, one goal, student success. And we function truly as one team. And I think that all the employees know that. And I think all the students know that as well, that's why we exist. So I think that that's kind of, if you will, if you had to sum it up into one bottom line, we're just one team and we're all about student success. That's our one goal.
How do you make one team out of that many schools and that many students?
That's right. So we've got about 113 schools and we have about 20,000 employees. We're the largest employer in Cobb County. So it's Metro Atlanta, of course. And, you just have to get buy-in. I think that my focus has always been on the employees. I've focused a lot. I've been in Cobb now for 18 years. And prior to that, I was in Paulding, which was next door to Cobb, for the first half. So I've been in education.
So you're a hometown boy.
I am indeed. Yes. My mom actually graduated from one of Cobb's high schools and my dad graduated from one of Paulding's high schools.
Nice.
So it is good to be a hometown person, and it's always good that you can do something for the community to give back. And I think that's the way I look at our team, if you will. I've always been focused on the employees. Every year we have a $1.5 billion budget annually. And I always focus on our employees in that budget. Over 94% of that 1.5 billion is in people. So if you mess up and you have a budget hiccup, it's going to impact people. So I think that's always been my focus. Is each year I tell the board that this budget is employee centric. I've been fortunate enough to be able to give the largest raise in the history of the Cobb County School District twice.
How did that feel?
It felt awesome, but it felt awesome because we're helping the team. And when you take care of your current team, it's actually a recruitment tool. You don't have to focus on recruitment. You focus on retention. People that want to be cared for, to feel like they're cared for and be useful. That's an attraction that we have. So I think taking care of our team actually is the best recruitment that I can do. And that's what my focus is.
Well, we know funding is always a challenge with schools. So how did you manage to do that? Is there something, a secret sauce that you could share with other superintendents?
Well, my chief financial officer knows that's my focus. So every year we're not looking for new programs or new gimmicks or fads. We're focused on our team. And he knows my first question every budget year is, how much raise can we give? But the second question is, part of that, how much can we give, is what is sustainable? Because whatever we do, we have to make sure that we're able to sustain that throughout the years. Because, in 2008, when we had a recession, it hit education hard. I think harder than it did a lot of other industries, only because things that were common for corporate, such as layoffs and pay cuts and these kind of things, furlough days, those had never been heard of in education. And all of a sudden in 2008, 2009, they were commonplace. So I think it opened a lot of eyes as to how easy education could be negatively impacted by funding. And that's always difficult because every state is different. But in Georgia, we've had the benefit of our General Assembly and legislature and governor be focused on providing and taking care of our educators. So it is a focus, but it's not an easy task because, to be able to take care of our employees the way we have, like the last raise we were able to give was a 7 to a 12.1% raise. And that's significant because for educators, you don't get into education to get rich, right? And you're not going to get rich throughout your career. But the way that the Georgia teacher retirement system is set up, it truly takes care of the educators after they have dedicated their lives to education. It takes care of them in that retirement system. So, and the retirement system is based on the highest 2 consecutive years of salary that you have. So when you give raises, you're actually taking care of employees well into their retirement.
Talk about your path to getting to this position, because it's not the traditional one.
It definitely is not the traditional path. And I actually, before I got into education, I worked at IBM in Bell South before it became AT&T. So I'm kind of dating myself there. But my background is actually technology. I have a degree in information systems, my bachelor's degree, but then I have a master's degree in educational leadership. So I've kind of worked in both worlds, if you will. I've been in education now for 32 years. I've always been on the operations side of education. So when I started as interim superintendent, when the board named me interim superintendent, I had a lot of proving to do to teachers and principals that I've never walked a mile in their shoes. So what do I know about leading a school district, especially one as large as Cobb? I think now the teachers, I've gained their trust, and they trust me to lead our school district. And that's very important because, again, if nobody's willing to follow you as a leader, you're just taking a walk, So it's very important to have that buy-in from the teachers. I committed to them that, education, unfortunately, is sometimes known for jumping on the latest fad for education. And I committed to our district that I would not jump on fads. And that kind of sounds odd from a technologist because you want to be on the leading edge, but you just don't necessarily want to cut over to the bleeding edge. So.
Well, with your technology background, you must have some thoughts about artificial intelligence and education. What are they?
Well, artificial intelligence is relatively new. And unfortunately, education sometimes is late to the party. So sometimes it's a late adopter of education. I think, though, in the AI world, it's going to force educators to really adopt it because it's there. So either you can embrace it and use it as a tool, either as an educator or as a parent or even as a student, but it's not going away. So I definitely think the path is not to go on the restriction route, like, oh my goodness, we've got to be scared of it. It's something new. It gives access to students to answers maybe before they have the true buy-in of the standards and mastery at that particular content level. But when you drill down to it, all of technology is just that, a tool. It's meant to make the life of the teacher easier and be more efficient so that he or she can truly take those students to the next level. And I think that's the way you have to look at AI. It's just another tool, and it has the potential to be truly a groundbreaking tool. So,
how do you keep pace with the change of technology that's going so fast and try to keep some of your traditional teaching methods that have been tried and true?
That's right. It's very tough for teachers, right? Because you never want to be in that situation to where you're going to jump off the deep end in the technology and then it lets you down. So that's why it's so important from the technology side that you have the confidence that's there, you have the uptime, and you know that when you go to use that technology, it's going to work like it's supposed to. But I think also, again, technology can never replace a teacher. I think, unfortunately, we saw that during the pandemic when so many school districts, all of the school districts really had to switch on, online learning at the flip of a switch overnight, which is never the way you want to implement anything. But people saw that some kids are actually, no pun intended, wired for online learning. They thrived in it. Some teachers are wired for online learning. They thrived in it. But for the majority, the teachers and the students need to be face-to-face in that classroom. Now, we still have an online high school and middle school right now that we allow parents and students to take advantage of if that's their desire. I think that was the most important thing coming out of the pandemic is learn the lessons that you can. Everything can't be, a negative, so it makes you stronger. So you come out of it and you realize that there is a market for students and teachers to be able to thrive in an online environment. It's not for everybody. And we have a very small percentage of our students that take advantage of it, but that's our job. Our job is to make sure we provide as many opportunities for our students to succeed as possible in whatever means that might be.
Talk about how, and the difficulties really of playing catch up with students from the pandemic, especially the elementary students, as I understand it, who fell behind in math and in reading and literacy. How have you tried to make up that ground?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because it's something that I think the negatives have not even been determined yet. Like it's generational in some instances. Now, we started school remotely, and we very quickly transitioned back to face-to-face and online. So we were doing two things at once. The only thing that allowed us to really do that successfully, we created our own online learning system or learning management system. It's called CTLS. It stands for Cobb Teaching and Learning System. So we actually developed that with the help of multiple vendors, but we developed it in-house. So we didn't go out and buy it off the shelf. And that's a huge benefit for us and our teachers and our students, because we customized it to our environment. So we were ready. We already had CTLS, but we just didn't have the student portion turned up yet. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Wong from Brown University did a study on CTLS, and he identified that it actually helped us respond to the pandemic, but also recover quicker than most were able to, because we were both back to face-to-face, but we also had those learning resources contained within that CTLS system that allowed us to recover very, very quickly.
When it comes to the pandemic and the relief funds that are drying up, how are you planning ahead for that?
Yeah, so we have already transitioned some of the positions or the people that we utilized some of the additional funds for. We've transitioned those into our budget. So we know, obviously, the funds were going to come to an end. It wasn't a forever kind of grant. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The question is, how do you prepare? Because if you just blow through the money and you're not prepared to take that next step, then you're really going to be in a hurtful situation for students and teachers. So we have prepared, especially where literacy is focused. We have a lot of literacy personnel that we used the ESSER funds for, that we are transitioning into our budget now. So we've made that preparation, and we're actually already down that path. Some of the other things we did was we started providing the summer school for free to parents, when before it was a charged service. So you want that summer school to provide as much benefit for students as you can. So having that be at a no cost to parents, that was very important for us to continue.
What are some of the accomplishments or strides that you've made in Cobb County that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think just like I said, our one team mentality, I could not be more proud of our entire team that we come together. I'll mention the raise again, being able to have a board that supported the budget and supported my focus on the employees, to be able to do that. It's tough for me to say I, because, there's no I in team, kind of thing. But one of the things that I'm very proud of our team for doing, we have been recognized as the top fundraiser for the American Heart Association 2 years in a row. And I'm hoping this year is the third year. Georgia Bulldogs can do 3, maybe we can't. So, but we actually raised more money than any other school district in the country. And they named me as the American Heart Association Superintendent, National Superintendent of the Year. And I was very pleased to get that. But again, it's because of our team. It's something that everybody can get behind, and the students love to get involved in that. It's just a great cause. So I'm extremely proud of our team coming together for that. Absolutely.
When you look ahead at 2024, what are some of your objectives, and what do you think about the state of education?
The state of education always has to be positive, right? Because that is our future. So if we're not focused on a positive outcome for the future, then we're in the wrong business. And I think that's one of the benefits that we have to work in education, is truly you get to touch and impact the future. How many teachers can we know, and remember how they impacted us, right? So that's it's very important. But I think that we need to get back to. I have 3 priorities in our district, and the first is to ensure that Cobb is the best place to teach, lead, and learn. We want to make sure our parents wake up and want to send their students to no other school but in Cobb County. And we want our employees to wake up and want to go to work no place else other than the Cobb County School District. But the second one is to get back to the basics of teaching and learning, right? To simplify the foundation of teaching and learning to prepare for innovation. That sounds like something that you put on a list of, you hang it on the wall and you forget about it. But truly, it really is getting back to the basics of teaching and learning. Like I said, I committed to not having any fads, not jumping on the bandwagon for fads, and that's kind of where that comes from. We've got to make sure that we get back to the basics of reading and writing and math and science, and we don't lose that focus because, as you mentioned, technology, it can change everything for good, sometimes for bad. So, you have to maintain that focus. And then the last priority is we use data to make decisions. That's where technology can become an invaluable tool for education because you can test too much. You've heard the reports on all the testing and the state mandated testing. You have to have good assessing to know where students are, and being able to have the technology at your fingertips so that the teachers can see that data. If there's one thing that has changed in education, and you think about it, what other industry can say we are doing basically the same thing, the same way for the past 200 years with a high level of success? No, I'm not saying it's perfect,
right,
but it's certainly not broken, right? And so I think that's the focus that we have to maintain is we have to use technology as a tool to make the teacher's life easier, which makes it more efficient. So if we can provide that data to teachers, that's the one thing that has changed. Where, when I was in school, a certain class was at a certain level, and that's how students were managed, right? Or separated. So today, the teacher has to have individualized student data on every student that teacher teaches. Literally, it's like you're teaching a class of individuals, not a class. And so that's one thing that has changed. So anything we can use for technology, with technology to make that job easier and get that data to the teachers so they can make these instantaneous decisions, that's going to benefit everybody, especially the students.
For those who want to get into the superintendent business, what is your best advice amid this environment for other superintendents?
So number one asset you have to have is thick skin. I was convinced during the pandemic, half of the people didn't like my decisions and the other half hated them. So there was nobody that liked the decision during the pandemic. And in all seriousness, you have to be able to make decisions and make the decisions that's in the best interest of students and best interest of teachers. And sometimes you're never going to make everybody happy. So I think the focus, and especially today, it seems like protecting kids is taking a higher priority because it's a higher need today. And that's very unfortunate. But when students come to school, parents need to feel like they have dropped their kids off and they're going to be safe for the remainder of the day. And, things are happening in today's world, and education and schools are not insulated from that. So, but it's my job as superintendent to make sure I insulate the district as much as possible from the outside noise so that our teachers, the best teachers in the world, can do their job in the classrooms each and every day.
What's the feedback you get from teachers about what they see on the ground in the classrooms?
The teachers you talk to, the teachers I talk to in Cobb, they love their job. It's a passion, for education, because again, you don't get into education for the money. You get into it to make a difference. And I think our teachers really step up to the plate. And I think that one common denominator our teachers would say is that they know that we respect what they do, from the top down. The board, myself, it's very important for that one team relationship to start with the Board of Education and myself, because a negative interaction there, it flows into the classroom. So we can't afford to let that happen. And that's some of the noise that I said is my job to make sure we're insulating the classroom. So I think the teachers in Cobb know that I respect what they do. And every chance I get, I'm going to be able to take care of them for doing that job.
What do you think the greatest challenge is as a superintendent right now?
Well, I think the lifespan of a superintendent in the role is less than 3 years now. So I've been in it for 10. So, I've lived more than 3 lifetimes, I guess. But in all seriousness, it's a very important role. But you have to be able to bring humility to the role. If I'm the smartest boy in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I've got to make sure that my team that surrounds me is way smarter than I am. Because like I said, I came up through the operations side. So I have to make sure my chief academic officer is going to be bringing the best ideas to the table. And I got to be able to trust her to do that. I'm not going to second guess my team. So I think that's very important for a superintendent to make sure they have the best team that they can possibly have surrounding them, because it's going to make or break your district. And again, there's no I in team, and you got to make sure you've got the right team from the top down.
And what's your philosophy? One team?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be able to make sure that you're functioning as a team. You're going to win as a team. Sometimes you're going to lose as a team, but then you come back the next time and you're going to go for first place.
Well, if you're overseeing the 23rd largest district in the U.S., I mean, that's a lot of team building.
Absolutely. It has its challenges. We're not the world champions every year, but we try to be.
I like that. Well, Chris Ragsdale, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure talking with you.
My pleasure as well. Thank you for having me.